Chapter 29. Wounds. I don't look back as the train picks up speed. I make my way across the top of the car, then swing down through the open door of the boxcar. As my feet hit a slippery spot on the floor, I slip backward. A nail sticking out of the wall catches my shirt and rips it. But it doesn't stop my stumble. Arms flailing, I'm about to fall out through the open door.
"Watch it, young fella."
A strong hand with long, slender fingers has just wrapped around my wrist and pulled me back. I look up into the face of the tall person who's just saved me. It's a dirty face, but a pleasant one. It's framed by long gray hair topped with a bowler hat. "Thank you, sir," I say, surprised at how weak and cracked my own voice sounds.
"Ma'am."
"Huh?"
"Ma'am, young fella."
The middle-aged woman I took for a man doesn't let go of my wrist. She flicks the cigar she was smoking out the door, then reaches her right arm forward to grasp my shoulder.
"Come on over here."
She guides me to a corner where a bedroll and a few other things, including a large bag, have been set up behind a row of packing crates. I smell food cooking, and in the first light of dawn coming in through the door, I notice a little camp stove set up with a pot of stew atop it.
"Take a seat,"
she says in a raspy voice, pointing at a crate.
"Good thing I was just having me a smoke. Otherwise you might have just tumbled head over tea kettle out that door, sonny."
"Thank you, ma'am," I reply. I sit on the small crate with a cloth over it the woman has set up as a stool. I've never met her before, but I'm not all that surprised to find myself in the presence of a woman hobo. There are more than a few women riding the rails in these hard times, though ours is largely a male society.
"Gail," she says.
"Huh?" I'm slow on the uptake because it's so early.
"That's my moniker, sonny. Gail, like the wind. And in whose presence do I now find myself?"
"Cal," I reply. She says, half to herself. Then she dishes out a plate full of mush and hands it to me. As I eat, I take note of what's in that half-open bag. There's bandages and a bottle of witch hazel in the top. I realize that I'm in the presence of an angel of mercy, a hobo doctor. Pop told me about them, Knights of the Road who make it their mission to care for other hobos. Most are men, some of them former physicians. What they do is out of the kindness of their heart. After having lost everything material, they've still kept and shared their skills. Though I am not going to ask her, I would bet this gray-haired woman knight named Gail has a story that is an interesting one.
"Your grub okay?"
she asks. "Yes," I say. "Thank you, ma'am."
"Fine," she rasps. "And you're a polite one, too, ain't you, Cal?"
I nod.
"And about as talkative as a clam, eh? So where you headed?"
D.C., I reply. She reaches out to grasp the torn fabric of my shirt.
"Peel that off,"
she says as she turns to push aside the bandages to root deeper into that bag.
"Here, this'll fit you."
She hands me a shirt she's just extricated from its depths. It smells a little musty, but as I put it on, I find that it fits pretty good.
"Good," she says, eyeing me up and down. "So what's in D.C. for you, Cal? Going to visit old Evil Hoover in his pretty White House?"
"My pop," I say. "He's with the bonus army." Gail settles back onto the floor.
"More power to him and them as is like him in the BEF, she says. "But it is going to be getting right hot down there, you know, and I do not mean the temperature. Been reading the papers?"
"Some," I reply. Gail nods.
"Coming to a head now," she says. "Old Evil Hoover and that general of his, MacArthur is his name, they are seeing reds everywhere, when mostly it is just honest men who served asking for their due. Thousands of vets in and around the city, but not only that, there's women and children as well. Whole families, most in the big camp across the Potomac at Anacostia." She snorts a laugh. "You ought to see how some is living there. some in boxes and barrels. One fella is even sleeping in a coffin with a big sign on it reading, "My home in Washington is a burial case." Everyone as peaceful as can be, but all of them asking for that bonus to be paid. Gail shakes her head. Powers that be are not taking kindly to all those former doughboys setting up camp so close to the White House. There's close to 2,000 in the old Armory building alone on Pennsylvania Avenue. Most of them are boys of the 6th who served in France. Camp Glassford, they call it, right within sight of the Capitol, which makes Treasury Secretary Mellon and all his rich cronies right unhappy. They've been planning to build a whole new federal triangle there where the vets been billeted. I'm listening with my mouth open. This gray-haired, generous lady is like a walking fount of information. I've learned more from her in 10 minutes about the bonus army than I've gotten from the last 2 months of reading papers and listening to the radio. And she's not done yet. Gail looks out the door of the car at the morning prairie rushing backward, the sun turning the grass gold. For a while it looked good, you know. House passed the bonus bill, even though old evil Hoover squawked like a wet hen about it. But the Senate sneaked out of town without even voting on it. And now that Congress is not in session, Hoover and his pet generals figure it is past time to get the BEF cleared out of the city. Next thing you know, it's martial law and blood being shed. You be careful, young Cal. You might just be walking into a war zone. I shake my head. Despite the dream I had at Chilagi, where I saw Pop in mortal danger, it's hard for me to believe. How could American soldiers be called upon to attack veterans? Were you there? I ask. Gail nods. I'd be there still, except I got word my daughter is sick, which is why I am on this freight going to Kansas City. Fell asleep and missed my connection, so I am backtracking. Lucky for you, eh, Cal? I nod. Lucky for me for sure. Now, you just sit back and rest while old Gail fills you in on what to expect when you get to this land's biggest Hooverville. I do just that, listening for an hour or more until Gail's voice and the rhythm of the train and the exhaustion I can't fight any longer conspire to make me drift off. The last thing I hear before I fall into an exhausted sleep is Gail's voice. I'll be changing lines at the next stop, but you just stay in this car, and may the road be good to you. When I wake up, the train has stopped. We're at the Kansas City rail yard. Gail and her belongings are gone. Nothing around me but empty boxes. I hear voices. Railroad bulls checking the cars. I slip inside one of the wooden boxes and wait. The door is slid open a few feet and a ray of light shines in. "Nobody here," a gravelly voice says from outside. "Not like last month when we had them vets filling every car," another deeper voice answers. Then the door is rolled shut again. The scrunch of the bull's feet on the gravel of the roadbed fades away. The car jolts as the train starts moving again. I crawl out of the box and sit in front of the door. We're passing houses, farms, and fields, rolling alongside a river. But I'm hardly aware of that. I'm seeing the scenes Gail described. All those men and their families in those camps. My father's there among them. Suddenly there's fire everywhere. People are screaming. Tanks! Tanks are coming! I'm hearing the rumble of heavy metal treads, the thudding of boots, the cracking of rifles. I'm seeing and smelling blood flowing in the streets. I open my eyes. I'm back in the car, but that vision is still with me. And I know it's going to keep coming back every time I close my eyes until I can reach my father's side. July 27th. I've been traveling for 2 days. After Kansas City, I spent the night near a hobo jungle at the edge of St. Louis. I looked in at the camp from the shadows without seeing anyone Pop and I knew. Being alone and just a kid, I figured I would be safer on my own. But not every hobo lives up to the ethical code. Without Pop to protect me, I might get robbed of what little I have, or worse. I slipped back into the woods and set up a cold camp.
And now this train on the Baltimore and Ohio line is taking me toward my final destination. I am hoping I'll get there in time. Although I'm focused on what lies ahead of me, on finding Pop and making sure he is safe, I've had time alone for the first time since arriving at Chilagi. Now that I've had time to think, I realize something. I've left behind the best friends I've ever had. In point of fact, aside from Pop, the only real friends I've ever had. Before going to Chilagi, I thought I knew who I was. I thought I knew what road I was on. But now I know there's another road besides riding the rails and dreaming about having a farm again with Pop. Now there's the road of being an Indian, a road I'm going to be traveling for the rest of my life, whether I'm with Pop or not. Until I got to Chilagi, it was always just Pop and me. During the time I was in my old school, there were kids I'd been friendly with, but none of them were like Possum or Little Coon or Deacon. No one I could really rely on other than my father. No one I could tell my dreams to. No one I'd trust with my life. Thinking of them and the things we've done together brings a smile to my face. Does that mean I'm missing Chilagi? That thought confuses me. I'm sure as shooting not missing most of the teachers, or the stupid rules, or the back-breaking work they had us do for pennies a day, or the dumb marching, or the way they treat us. But I am missing our Creek gang. I belong with them in a way I never belonged before. I miss the freedom of the woods and fields, the joking, the stomp dancing. I miss having learned I'm not just Indian. I'm Creek. Even though I've only known about it for a short time, it's like I found a part of myself that was always there, but just hidden. I'm seeing myself, and Pop, in a different light. It's kind of like I've been growing up without ever having looked into a mirror and recognizing myself. What will I do when I find Pop? And where will we go after that? What road will we be on? I shake my head. Right now it's my turn to take care of him. All I should think about is finding him. Soon.